And we're back here on Business Casual. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Nav Nanwa. Have you ever experienced career burnout before? That's the topic that we are discussing on this week's Business Casual. And joining me to talk about this in greater detail, I have somewhat of a career specialist in her past life, now working in banking. I have Carla Antidormi joining me, as well as the past chair of the Brampton Board of Trade, the Renaissance man, Jaipual Massey-Singh. I'm not going to let go of that. You're the Renaissance man.
I'm getting business cards printed up as we speak.
I love it. I love it. But you know, the first segment that we talked about during the, regarding this topic, we really touched on some of the root causes and just, some of your experiences dealing with career burnout. Let's talk about some of like the solutions to how someone can overcome burnout, not just from a career standpoint, but some of the motives that now companies are putting into place to really overcome this. And I'm wondering, what were some of your ways that you overcame career burnout? And Carla, we'll begin with you.
I really focused on self-awareness.
Okay.
So I tried to figure out, why am I not happy right now? Focused on the skills, what I needed in a role, and I read so much.
Right.
So between books, between asking people out for coffee, tell me
Really?
about your job, what do you like about your job?
Yeah.
So that's how I started to gain more information, and then I tried to see if I could see myself in those types of roles. So just a lot of research.
Which books did you read by any chance?
Fish Out of Water was one of them.
Okay.
So mostly career related and how to find your path type jobs or type books.
Jaipual.
Similar, I think, by the sounds of it. I mean, it really came down to the people I was in communication with, but in a lot of ways, just mentors. Finding opportunities to talk to other people about who seemed who seemed happier doing what they were doing than I was with what I was doing, and trying to understand, what was it, and which allowed me ultimately to understand it was about fit more than anything else. It takes time, I think, sometimes in one's career to figure out what you're good at and what you're bad at, as opposed and how that's different from what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy.
Yeah.
Those two things aren't necessarily syncing up they don't always sync up perfectly. But I think once I started to learn what I was good at, but also what I enjoyed, it allowed me to make decisions that put me in positions to do the things that not only I'd be successful at, but I got satisfaction out of. That happened because I started talking to people who seemed happy and successful doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
And the one thing just going back to the original segment, both of you touched on the fact that you experienced burnout at a very early stage of your career, and that's a very common thing now, especially when you look at just how quickly people from the undergrad or people from any sort of education are getting jobs, or even just having any experience at a company for like over 2 years, how you can experience it just based on what's been promised to you. How important was it to seek those mentors, and how have those mentors sort of shaped your outlook now, going into your current jobs and actually having some years under your belt when it comes to the corporate world?
I think for me, you don't know all the jobs that are out there when you're young.
Yeah.
Right. So having mentors that you would explain to them, this is what I like doing on a day-to-day basis, and they would say to me, Carla, have you ever thought about this? Right. I would never have thought that I would be in a career coach position at a university, and that was one of the conversations with a mentor that led me to that. So I think just learning about all the experiences that they have that you don't have yet.
Yeah, Jaipual.
For me, it's really shaped as I've moved from being someone who's an employee within an organization to more often than not being an employer or a manager within an organization. It's changed how I develop people. It's very much changed how I hire people. I've really started to move away from tell me about the skills that you have to tell me about what's important to you. What makes you happy? How do you feel like you've done a good job? What motivates you within a day? And try to make sure that what the organization is trying to achieve, or what I'm trying to achieve out of that team, is in line with who the people I'm hiring actually are. I've realized as I've moved through that skills are the easiest part of any job. You can always find someone with skills.
Yeah.
You can teach skills.
You can teach skills, and that's what YouTube videos are for, quite frankly. I figured a lot of things on through Dr. Google.
Oh, you're a Khan Academy student, aren't you?
I actually am. And my lynda.com is quite useful as well. But no, but that said, I think it's really about making sure that people's values fit what the organization is looking for. So for me, the experience really has been useful as I've transitioned from my own career management to how I help develop other people, making sure that they benefit from my experiences.
But just on that point, do you think the concept of an individual burning out during their career can be perceived as a positive thing?
I think I don't know if I think with retrospect,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
I think it's a bad situation for one to be in, but I think like any uncomfortable moment in one's life, it can be a symbol that it's a symptom that it's time for change. And I think if you use it, the way Carla talked about, let's take a step back. Let me educate myself about what my options are, figure out what I'm better suited to do, or at least will give you more happiness. Then I think you can look back and go, yeah, that was a crappy moment,
Yeah.
but it allows me to be in a better place in the long run. I think in that respect, I think it's, in some respects, I think it's a very natural ebb and flow to one's career.
Yeah.
Where it's negative is if one feels trapped by it and can't escape it.
Right. And then who knows what the negative health side effects might
Absolutely.
be of that as well, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, especially since unfortunately, a lot of organizations still exist, and this is not a knock to any of them, but there is a corporate culture in a number of organizations that focuses on, if you burn out, you're just not good enough to work here, and it's a way to weed people out. It's a way to sort of, get the cream of the crop to rise,
Sure.
and just sort of get rid of those individuals who just can't handle it. Do you agree with that mentality? And Carla, let's get your perspective on this.
Ooh, you sure you want to go first on that one?
All right, well, it doesn't matter, but
I don't know if I necessarily agree with the mentality. I think the people that enjoy what they're doing and want to be there will just naturally end up working often and gravitating towards those types of companies. I think something that might be relating to that is when you're young in your career and you don't have the confidence to wait and say, hey guys, like you're giving me way too much work.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look at my phone when I'm at home with my family and so I think they might be wanting to see assertiveness maybe and not even necessarily the burnout piece.
Yeah, no, exactly. Jaipual.
I think that corporate culture still exists. I don't think it's a positive one in the long run. But I think it goes deeper than just the corporate culture. It's been my experience that that's still very much a lot of programs academically still utilize that. We'll let you in, and then we're going to weed you out. For first year and second year and third year. It's a war of attrition, and whoever survives to graduation, good luck. My day job, I work in healthcare, and with physicians, we see that it's who's left standing at the end. Oftentimes is the successful individual. So I think the bleed into the corporate culture actually starts sometimes at the academic institutions.
Yeah.
And I think if we really want to change that corporate culture, we need to start thinking about how we train people, particularly those who are in professional programs, because they're the ones who have that direct line from school to career, and decide, are we teaching the right mentality earlier in, perhaps?
Because if you think about it, looking at it from a corporate lens, a lot of organizations are starting to recognize that burnout does occur, and they're being very proactive. And a lot of this, I think, I would like to credit some of the entrepreneurial companies for taking a stand and really sort of noticing this, a lot earlier. If you look at, companies like Google and companies like, Facebook, they really treat their employees, fairly well in the environment that they work in regards to providing them the amount of resources so that they're able to really deliver and to really feel comfortable at work. Do you feel like now more and more companies need to do that? They need to take a chance and really understand what their employees are going through and really provide them these services?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no,
Anybody can take it.
I think it's really manager dependent.
Okay.
And that's what I've experienced in my own career.
Yeah.
And you can have a company that creates these policies and has different methods of relieving stress, but if you don't feel comfortable enough with your manager, or the manager's not the one that is saying, hey guys, it's okay to take breaks and do this, then I don't know if you're necessarily going to have the same experience as you would at a Google or Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
I think some similar sort of thought. I think some of the things that we sort of look at places like Google and so forth and really get celebrated.
Yeah.
I think are really the window dressing. It doesn't matter if there's a endless salad bar, or I can decorate my cubicle however I want, or whatever other things we see at IDEO or Google. If at the end of the day, I don't understand what the organization wants from me, if I don't feel like I'm contributing to the value proposition of the organization, if my values and the values of the organization don't line up, if those things aren't in sync, it doesn't matter how great Wacky Wednesdays are, or if there's a beer cart. I'm still unhappy.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
I think it's more about what does the organization stand for? Does it do a good job of communicating that? Does it do a good job of explaining to people who work for that organization? And here's how you help do that. And I think if those circumstances are there, then everything else is great to have. But I don't think any of it's necessary to have. I think people want to feel like they contribute. I think they want to feel like they have autonomy. I think people want to feel like they're valued. And I think those things come way before some of the cool, fun things that we see. And I think some organizations, unfortunately, I'm seeing are putting too much emphasis on the, well, we'll set up shop in a cool loft and we'll have, you bring your dog to work, and that sounds great.
Yeah.
But ultimately, people are still getting burned out in those organizations as well.
Exactly. We only have a couple minutes left. I do want to just read to you just something I found in Fast Company, and that's, they recently reported a trend that professional women burning out and quitting their jobs before the age of 30 is on the rise due to high expectations, both self-imposed and otherwise. Is a case of career burnout simply us just putting more pressure on ourselves versus actually feeling the pressure of a work environment? And Carla, we'll begin with you.
Yeah, I think so. And from my own experience, absolutely. I was always told that I'm my own worst enemy.
Yeah.
So I think just having all the expectation on myself is really what led to my burnout.
Wow. Jaipual?
Yeah, I think so. I saw something interesting the last couple of days. Health Quality Ontario, which is sort of one of these overarching organizations that looks at the impacts and quality of healthcare delivered on the province, they released a report regarding caregiver satisfaction and sort of the role that caregivers are playing in the lives of particularly elderly and at-home individuals with illness. And they saw over the last 5 years that the number of individuals who provide care for a loved one in the home who reported some kind of burnout had increased from about 12-15% to over 30%.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think it's tied to work. It's tied to fundamentally, how does your identity tie to the thing that you're doing? And so now we're talking about people who are doing a volunteer kind of role for someone who they care about and have the same reporting of depression, anxiety, sleeplessness that we're talking about in the course of the workplace. I don't think it's a work issue. I think it's about it is a personal thing.
Right.
It's about how does what I do reflect who I am?
The self-awareness and the values.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
I want to thank, unfortunately we're out of time, but I want to thank the both of you for joining me to talk with us. I feel like this was like a burnout support group. The next time we do a segment like this, we should maybe hold hands and just console each other. But no, it's good to see that these examples or these situations do exist and there are means to get through it. So I want to thank both of you for joining me here on Business Casual this week. And I want to thank you for joining me on Business Casual this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you again here on Rogers TV next week. Take care.